I have the distinct privilege of introducing Jamie Barberio tonight. I call him Jamie, all the signs say James. He's always Jamie to me. He has done an amazing job in a very short period of time that he's been mayor, especially under these tough economic times that we're dealing with now. As many of you probably know, we have a 2% cap imposed by the state. Jamie came in with a budget around 1.5. So I know all of us on the council were very impressed with that. We couldn't even find an area to cut. He also managed to maintain our present workforce. There won't be any layoffs of police officers this year or any other township employees. I've lived in town since 1956. In fact, I graduated this high school, it was 50 years ago last June. Had a great party, by the way. But boy, those women changed. All the guys look great. But I have never, ever known a mayor to do a town hall meeting like this. And I think the mayor said that it's going to be an annual event for him. So I'd like to, number one, thank all of you for coming out in this rotten weather. And please listen to what we have to say. It's tough years. There's a lot of explaining that has to be done. And it's my privilege to introduce the mayor of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills, James Barberio.
Can everybody hear me loud and clear? Good. First, I want to thank you all for coming out on this miserable day. It means a lot to have you all here today. You know, this is a dream for me that came true. I've always wanted to be mayor of Parsippany Troy Hills. I said it when I was at Parsippany Hills High School, when I was 16 years old, that somehow, some way I would serve the residents in the capacity of being mayor. But I think it was going to come true when I was 16, no. You know, it was just a dream. And as time went on, I remember when I was working, when I was going to Montclair State College, I was working in Bennigan's, 1985, and another mayor would come in, and I'd be waiting on him, and that was Mayor Frank Priori. And I said, I'm going to be mayor one day. And I meant it. I was. Now, as you know, I lost in 2005, but that's fine. Can't win them all. I lost. And then I said, I'm going to come back. I didn't come back just for me. I come back because I wanted to serve you, the residents of Parsippany Troy Hill. The towns where I grew up in, I went to the public school system. My lovely wife, Brenda, as well as I, she grew up in town. She went to the public school system. My children now go to the public school system. My daughter graduates this year. In 2 years, my son does. You couldn't ask for any more of a rewarding job than being the mayor of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills, especially being your mayor. I'm going to give you an overview of the township budget. The effects of the 2% cap and no toolkit has put Parsippany's present budget into a situation where, and I'll get to that, but my number one goal was to maintain the vital services here in Parsippany Troy Hills. But this was an extremely difficult budget this year to craft because we have a 2% cap and no toolkit. I'll explain that to you what that means. The toolkit are the tools that we need to offset the cap so we can run our town. Governor Christie, he warned the legislators that the cap will not work without the toolkit. And we haven't got the toolkit yet. With that being said, Governor Christie challenged municipalities with the 2% cap, and I'm proud to say Parsippany Troy Hills met those challenges. It wasn't easy. There were tough decisions that had to be made, but I made them. And of course, we have our critics, but that's okay. I can handle the critics here in Parsippany. The good news is the budget only increased 1.5% from last year to this year. We didn't need to have a 2% cap. We did it without the cap. The tax levy increase. Now, a lot of people always wonder, what is a tax levy increase? That's the amount of money to be raised through property taxes. On the average house assessed at $309,000, the increase was $65, which is $5.41 per month. Now, you've been reading the paper, it's $59. Well, what happened was, as you know, the spike in fuel cost. We had to put that money in the budget for that. We didn't anticipate $3 a gallon and possibly $4 a gallon at the end of the year. But what had to be done to get there? Well, there was a lot of sacrifices that had to be made in departments. I sat with every department head here, and we're here tonight. I sat with Parks and Forestry, we cut the budget. Sanitation, we cut the budget. Police department, we cut the budget. And something very significant happened as well. We were able to replenish the previous year's surplus. And why is that important? Well, that's important because it helps affirm our AA bond rating. And that gives us the advantage of saving on interest if we were to bond. And another thing that I had to do was I used sewer surplus. I took $700,000 out of the sewer surplus, bring it over to make sure the taxes did not increase. These are extraordinary times, and it takes extraordinary measures. And you're going to see I'm going to have my critics on this issue. But you know what? I was giving the money back to you, the residents of Parsippany Troy Hills. It kept our rate low. It kept the taxes low. Because I don't know if anybody in this town could handle another 7 or 8% increase in their taxes. Emergency funding for retirement. We took advantage of a recently enacted legislation which allows the township to defer 80% of the cost of retirement payouts to the next 4 years. This resulted in a sizable savings to the 2011 budget of $716,000. You know, the state legislators did one thing smart. They realized with new pension reform, health care reform, there's going to be some problems for municipalities. Mass retirements. I don't know if you read in the paper yesterday or today it was. If the pension reform, health care reform passes, we're looking at 16 to 17 police officers retiring. That's about $2.9 million that we would have to put into the general fund, put into the budget. We would not be able to handle it. Here's the good news about what we did here. A lot of people came to the budget meetings, of course, trying to take their shots. I'm fine with that. We're not bonding for it. We're not bonding for it. We're just going to put it in a fund, in that item every single year until that 5th year's done. It's like this, ladies and gentlemen. It's very simple. You know, when you buy a house, you don't pay $400,000 for the house in cash. You buy a car, you don't pay $30,000 because you can't. You need to live. But we need to run the town. If we take such hits like $2.9 million in retirements, and it's going to come, I'm really convinced with the pension reform, it's going to come. The township would never be able to handle that. Your taxes would increase significantly in that year. Another thing, energy conservation. Due to the energy efficiency grants that we were able to reduce our costs. The anticipated cost of electricity and natural gas has been reduced based on expected savings from memberships in the NJSCM.